Good Thursday morning. It's the 5th of March. You found us here on the weather desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we've got a great show lined up today. Lots of great things to cover. Each and every weekday morning, starting at 9 o'clock, we give you the weather desk. It's a half an hour focused on today's top weather stories, and not just from Hampton Roads here in Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina, but also all across the country. We talk about world weather events. We talk about all kinds of things going on. Sometimes we look back in history. Sometimes we take it to space. There's all kinds of stuff. Today, we're going to focus on some interesting topics. First of all, you might wonder, when does Hampton Roads typically reach 80? We've been in the mid-70s already. Some inland areas have already been close to 80. We're going to get close to 80 again. Will Norfolk, the official reporting station for Hampton Roads, get there? Probably not quite yet, but we're going to get close. So we'll talk about the typical first 80-degree day of the year for Norfolk and how we've done over the past few years. Also, we're going to take a look at the severe weather outlook across the country, because with the warmer weather, the spring actually arriving now with these warmer temperatures, you have to start watching out for the stronger storms. You know, yesterday we talked about the statewide tornado drill for North Carolina as part of Severe Weather Preparedness Week. Next week, it's Virginia's Severe Weather Preparedness Week. So we're getting into it, and I will tell you the chances for all kinds of severe weather, including significant, stronger tornadoes. That is going up across the central U.S., and I will show you exactly where and when over the next couple of days in just a few minutes here. As we take a look, we also have still parts of the U.S. that are frozen and thawing out, and where we have ice that has been frozen through the winter season across the Northeast around parts of the Great Lakes, it's starting to thaw a little bit, and that thawing ice presents greater danger. Ginger Z actually gets into a frozen body of water, and you see her try to get out of it. It's really an interesting story. I watched it. I said, I can't believe Ginger's in there doing this stuff, and she was. So we'll show you that story on some of the greater danger. And then we're also going to look back at some of the issues we had with ice rescues in Virginia. And unfortunately, there was a fatality with one of those situations. So we'll talk about a successful ice rescue, and we've had a few of those across the Commonwealth, and that very unfortunate outcome with the other. As we take a look, we also have an update on Hurricane Melissa. You remember the one that just devastated Jamaica, came across Cuba, and did a lot of damage out there. Well, they've retired the name, and Tim Pandages, our chief meteorologist, has a look at that and some of the numbers, why they've retired Melissa's name officially. And then there's a new study on sea level rise, taking a look at actual satellite observation versus just model projections. We've got some updated information on how the sea level is changing. So here in Hampton Roads, we're one of the most vulnerable metropolitan areas anywhere in North America to sea level rise. It's a good story that you definitely want to stay tuned for more information on that. Let's start off taking a look at yesterday's highs. And you can see Phoenix made it up to 85. It was 81 in El Paso, Dallas 81, 88 in San Antonio. Temperatures hot. New Orleans, Orlando 85. We just made it up to 74 degrees here in Norfolk, and our normal high is 57. But again, might get you thinking, with a record high of 83 yesterday, when do we typically start getting those temperatures through the upper 70s and into the 80s? Well, you know, again, if it feels these recent temperatures in the 70s, if it's a feeling like it's warmer than normal, well, it clearly is. Meteorologist Hunter Force takes a look back at the earliest 80-degree days recorded in Norfolk.
As temperatures start to climb, you may be wondering, when do we usually hit our first 80-degree day here in Norfolk? On average, it happens around March 21st, right as spring is starting to begin. But as we know, Mother Nature doesn't always follow the calendar. The earliest 80-degree day on record came on January 30th, 2002, right in the middle of winter. While we'd expect coats and a freeze, temperatures that day surged. But on the flip side, the latest we've ever had to wait for 80 degrees was May 4th, back in 1984. By then, we're deep into spring and knocking on summer's door, still waiting for that first true taste of heat. Recently, though, we've been pretty consistent. Over the last 5 years, Norfolk has reached its first 80-degree day in March. But just 3 years ago, in 2023, we jumped the gun, hitting 80 degrees before February even ended. So while late March is our average benchmark, history shows that 80 degrees in Norfolk can arrive anytime from the heart of winter to the edge of summer. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forrest.
All right, Hunter, great information there. As we take a look, I want to get into, again, that concern with the severe weather. And we talk about this again with the warm up. You're going to find the fuel there for some of the fire, so to speak. So let's take this full. I'm going to walk over to the big board and talk some more about the severe weather outlook. As you can see, there were storms flaring up across the central U.S. through the Ohio River Valley. Right now, some pretty heavy rain working through Indiana into Ohio. We've also seen some pockets of heavier rain back across Oklahoma. Now, the greatest severe weather threat is actually out to the west of it. It's for storms that haven't even developed yet. So while we do have the potential for some stronger storms in spots here, and we've seen some areas with some intense rainfall, we'll take a look at the severe weather outlook and get into this. You'll notice, again, that level 3 threat here in the panhandle of Texas and back over into western Oklahoma. We also have a level 1 threat back across Kentucky, southern Ohio, and much of West Virginia. So I'm just showing you, again, this is just a marginal threat. It's the lowest elevated threat for severe storms, and it's mainly just some gusty winds. I don't know, maybe there could be a little bit of hail associated with it, but it's mainly just gusty winds there. Now, this situation here back across Texas, from Lubbock up to Amarillo, they have a level 2 threat. Once you get into Childress and Elk City, here you're in level 3. That means numerous severe storms could develop. This is what we call an enhanced risk. So the green area is technically what we call marginal, the risk. There's a slight risk in yellow, and then it becomes enhanced. The risk is enhanced in orange. So you get to that third tier, you really need to pay close attention. Even with a slight risk, level 2, you need to stay weather aware. But when you get into this third level, this enhanced risk, you really, really want to make sure you're aware of exactly what's going on out there. And that extends up through Woodward in Oklahoma. You get up into Kansas, Wichita, under that level 2 threat, and Hutchinson, Kansas, Emporia also under, that's Emporia, Kansas, under that potential for severe storms. So what are the primary concerns? First of all, gusty winds, and you see the areas shaded in the light blue. That's that level 1 threat. Then you've got that darker blue. You get into that second tier. It's more likely we'll see some damaging or gusty winds in excess of 60, 65 miles an hour. But where you see these hashes here, this means that there could be winds in excess of 75 miles per hour, and those are even more powerful, damaging, severe winds. So this is nothing to be played with. Again, those areas around Wichita, and I just mentioned Emporia, Kansas, back through Hutchinson, and then back all the way down into Texas. These areas really want to pay close attention to that. Winds, still a possibility, as I mentioned, Kentucky and West Virginia. You don't see the hail threat there. You do find the hail threat from Iowa through northwest Missouri, eastern parts of Nebraska down through Kansas, and then it really becomes a lot more focused in here, and that hashed area, you remember that same area that was bracing for those stronger winds gusting over 75 miles per hour. In this case, you also have to watch out for hail with 2-inch or more diameter. So you're talking about larger hail now, in excess of golf ball size hail, potentially in some of these areas. Going to be something that we'll be watching. Again, that's for later today. Now, in addition to that, there's that tornadic threat. So we'll take a look at the area. Most likely this kind of third tier of threat for the large hail, Childress through Elk City and up through Woodward. You also have to be concerned with tornadoes. And in this case, the hashtags represent areas where we could see EF2 or greater. So some more powerful tornadoes, not just the little weaker ones, but the stronger tornadoes potentially in this same area that's bracing for strong wind gusts and that larger hail. And that hashed area extends to just northeast of Lubbock, Texas. It's north of Wichita Falls and Lawton, but still this area, Childress up through Elk City and areas up through Woodward, back over just to I-35, basically. This is the area that is the greatest tornado threat. So we're going to watch that. That's for today. Now, as we look ahead, we're also going to take a look ahead to tomorrow, but this is the area that we're really going to be concerned with. Now, for tomorrow, the area shifts a little farther north and east, and it's going to be this area, western Missouri into eastern Kansas and Oklahoma, that has really got to pay super close attention to the potential for tornadoes. You see that level 3 threat in that area shaded in orange, the slight risk, level 2, all the way up to Chicago. See that, southern parts of Wisconsin, the southern 2/3 of Iowa, most of Missouri, not the southeast part of Missouri, the Boot Heel kind of on the edge there of the level 1 threat. But most of Missouri is under a level 2 or greater threat with the level 3 out to the west. And that slight risk extends down through Texas. Now, when we take a look at the tornado threat, this is what really has me most concerned. There is this third tier of elevated risk. I expect there to be several tornado warnings issued, and there are going to be most likely some, stories that come out of this area tomorrow as we get into Friday, and we'll continue to watch that. But you've got this hashed area, so we're talking EF2 or greater for the tornadoes, very strong, all the way out to just west of St. Louis, and then that extends back out, I would say, central Missouri, Columbia, even Jeff City. Certainly as you head out through Sedalia, down through Springfield and Joplin, Missouri, and then back up towards Kansas City, back out towards Wichita and down into Oklahoma. That's the area that is really going to be under the gun. So these communities, Topeka, Ottawa, Emporia, you see that, Harrisonville, some of these areas here, Mount Pleasant in Missouri, those areas all under that third level of threat, and it extends up to about St. Joseph. Back down to the south as you head towards Tulsa, they also are under that third level of threat for tornadoes and potentially some larger tornadoes. Branson kind of on the edge along with Springfield, kind of a level 2 threat here, level 3 around Springfield. So a lot to watch, a lot to consider here, and we will be watching that very, very carefully. Down towards Dallas, right on the cusp between that level 1 and level 2 enhanced risk for tornadoes. But I would certainly say if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, back over towards Sherman or even Wichita Falls, you're best to stay weather aware as we do have this threat of severe storms at that point. In addition, there'll be some very gusty winds. You can see the winds at excess of 75 miles per hour. That extends all the way through St. Louis. Now, my family, I have extended family. My mom and I've got a brother, two of my sons live back in St. Louis, this area. They're all going to be on the phone with me tomorrow asking about it as storms develop. And I can tell you that's going to be a concern. Those strong winds for the St. Louis metro area. Again, the greater threat farther to the west, but St. Louis certainly included, down through central Arkansas and all the way down through Dallas, and then large hail, another concern. So we're going to be watching it, and that hashed area, 2-inch or greater hailstones all the way through northern Illinois, and that does include the Chicagoland area as well, Omaha, Nebraska, down through Dallas. Pretty large part of the country that has that potential. Looking ahead to Saturday, the severe weather threat passes Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma and sets up farther east. Now Pittsburgh's in on it. Could see it up around, say, Cleveland, certainly up eastern portions of Lake Erie and back over to Lake Ontario. You get up towards Buffalo, Rochester. They're going to want to pay close attention to the potential storms. The level 1 threat includes Atlanta and Memphis, areas down to the south through New Orleans. Houston is under a level 2 threat. That's for Saturday. So we'll be paying very close attention and watching all of this. As I mentioned, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, and Charleston, West Virginia. Down south, all of these areas shaded in yellow under the level 2 threat. All right. As we take a look here, there's also the potential for excessive rainfall, and we've seen some of that. Let's take this full because I do want to just update you on a couple of these warnings that are out there, a couple flood warnings that are still in effect with the current radar. And you see this area here. We'll go to this area south of St. Louis. And again, this is pretty close, right along the Mississippi River, down in Bollinger, Cape Girardeau, and Perry counties. Only about 11,000 people under that, but there is that flood warning. That's going to continue until 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. You can see in Latimer County, Pittsburgh, these areas in Oklahoma, there's flash flood warnings. We also have some around the Cincinnati area as we take a little closer look. Let's start off, though, down in Oklahoma, because we do have these clusters of advisories and warnings. A lot of the heavier rain is pushed through. Up around Evansville, Indiana, there's this advisory that's in place. So travel along 64 through southern Indiana impacted there. About 386,000 people under flood advisory there. And then finally, just south of Columbus, another 100,000 or so impacted with this flood advisory just south along I-71. So we'll continue to watch that and let you guys know how things play out, but a lot of rain back across those parts of the country. Now, I bring it up to the northern edge of the area because you know what? We still have some wintry weather to talk about. The northern edge back up across Massachusetts, there's some snow flying, and it's a reminder that winter's not quite done with all of the country yet. But as temperatures are starting to rise across the country, a lot of frozen lakes and ponds are beginning to thaw out. And that melting can pose new risks, since not everyone may realize the ice is no longer thick enough to walk on. ABC's Ginger Z has a must-see demonstration of what you should do if you fall through the ice.
From falling through it to rescuing someone in it, icy water under frozen rivers and lakes can be deadly.
So we came here to Logansport, Indiana, and this huge frozen quarry. But how can you tell how thick the ice is? And what if I were to fall in? How do you survive?
A lot of times people don't realize how thick or how thin the ice is. You could get trapped underneath or could injure yourself hitting your head on the way down.
One of the most obvious signs that it might not be safe is if some of the ice is already visibly thawed.
Generally, 4 inches is the minimum you want to walk or skate on ice. So you could take a 4-inch drill bit, go ahead and go down, and if it's still ice all the way down and you don't hit water, you're in good shape. Test it again, 100 feet and another 100 feet. You want to make sure because ice can be different at different places in the lake.
Experts say if you don't know, don't go. The ice we're standing on now is about 8 inches thick, so if we want to get in, we're going to need to cut. Cue the rescue divers of the Indiana State Police. And since this is only a simulation, they cut out a clean triangle shape. That way I don't get cut by the jagged edges of the ice when I eventually take the plunge. I'm also attached with a safety line, so if I go under, they can pull me back up. But before I go in, we're going to show you how to get someone else out. Zach, one of our rescue divers, he's going to play the victim. The first thing to do is have someone call 911. Then it's all about keeping yourself safe first. They say preach, reach, throw, row, and go. Preach, or tell the victim how to self-rescue. Kick your legs, get horizontal, and pull yourself along the ice. If you're safely close enough, reach the victim with something like a hockey stick, ladder, or...
Almost everybody's got a jacket on, so you can get that as close to the victim as possible and give them a little leverage to get out.
If you can't reach the person that fell in, find something to throw, like a rope or extension cord. Finally, row and go.
If you find a canoe laying around, scoot that along the ice so that way if the ice breaks, you're still safe and in a boat.
Now it was my turn. With an ambulance standing by, rescue divers on the surface and underwater.
So here we go. I'm walking along and you just step in. Oh, yes, absolutely shock. And let me go ahead and come over to you if I can, because I feel like my legs already can't move, but that might just be my brain telling me that. Oh.
This is the moment most people panic, which can lead to tiring yourself out to the point where you can no longer stay above the water. To help you stay calm, remember that you have time. Use the 1-10-1 rule. Give yourself 1 minute to get control of your breathing and get used to the water. You'll have a full 10 minutes of meaningful movement before you lose feeling in your arms and legs, and then 1 hour before hypothermia sets in.
Oh my goodness, it feels like bones breaking in this water. So after that minute, you want to utilize your function still. If you have the ability, you don't want to try to push up like out of a pool because it might break again. Instead, you want to get your chest as far out as you can, your arms out far, and start kicking.
Kicking, like you're swimming, and then pull yourself along the surface.
So you can almost birth yourself like a seal or a whale onto the ice.
And then crawl, or if your arms and legs are numb from the cold, you can even roll to safety.
I think I need to warm up.
Ginger Z, ABC News, New York.
That's a pretty amazing demonstration, Ginger. Really appreciate her doing that and the rescue squad that was out there to make sure everything was going well. But what a demonstration. All right, there are still winter weather advisories you can see for portions of New York State, including Albany, areas across southern parts of Vermont and New Hampshire. Massachusetts still under the winter weather advisory, as well as portions of Connecticut, including Hartford. So again, we're not quite done with winter yet, but we are certainly warming up, and we are warming up here in Hampton Roads. Want to talk to you about what's coming up after the break. We're going to take a short break, 2 minutes. When we come back, the name Melissa retired from our Atlantic hurricane list, and we've got an update on sea level rise after the break. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Before we get into the rest of the show, we told you we were going to take a look at two of the water rescues in our region from this winter. In January, unfortunate, just a terrible story. A toddler died after falling into an icy pond in Enrico. That's just outside of Richmond. Emergency responders found the little boy unconscious. He was given CPR at the scene and rushed to the hospital, but he unfortunately did pass. A man was also treated at the scene for possible hypothermia. Now, just days later after that, in Norfolk, a boy fell through the frozen retention pond. He was taken to the hospital for treatment, and witnesses say they saw a group of kids playing by the pond when one boy started walking on it and fell through the ice. The father of that child went into the water and got the boy out. So again, that story that Ginger did, really significant, and that we do have those issues here during our winter months, even in Virginia. So got to very much respect the ice and not take any chances. Well, we are still months out from the hurricane season, and you know what? One of the names that we had in the past will never be used again. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis explains why Melissa is being retired and which M name will replace it.
Its annual meeting, the World Meteorological Organization announced that the name Melissa will be retired from the Atlantic hurricane name list. This marks the 100th Atlantic storm name ever retired. When the list cycles back around in 2031, Melissa will be replaced with the name Molly. Melissa was the final named storm of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, and it ultimately became one of the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded in the Atlantic basin. The storm intensified into a Category 5 hurricane and caused widespread devastation across several Caribbean nations. Now, the WMO Hurricane Committee is responsible for deciding when a storm name should be retired. Names are removed from the rotating list when a hurricane causes such significant damage or loss of life that reusing the name in the future would be considered inappropriate or insensitive. Unfortunately, Melissa clearly met that threshold. At its peak, Melissa produced sustained winds of 190 miles per hour, tying it as the strongest Atlantic hurricane on record. The storm was responsible for 95 fatalities across the Caribbean, with Jamaica suffering some of the worst impacts. Overall, Melissa caused nearly $9 billion in damage. The retirement of Melissa continues a recent trend in the Atlantic basin. Storm names have now been retired in 9 of the past 10 Atlantic hurricane seasons, highlighting just how destructive recent years have been. For 13 News Now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages.
All right, Tim, Melissa certainly one for the record books as well. Incredible, powerful storm. Right now we're looking at the ocean, and I mentioned how vulnerable Hampton Roads is to sea level rise. Well, new research suggests the world's sea levels may be much higher than scientists were previously thinking, and that could mean coastal communities may face flooding risks sooner than expected. A study published in the journal Nature found global coastal sea levels are about a foot higher on average than earlier estimates projected they would be, and in some regions as much as 3 feet higher. The researchers reviewed nearly 400 studies on sea level rise and found many relied mostly on modeling rather than real-world satellite measurements. Scientists say that oversight may have led to widespread underestimates of how much land and how many people are at risk from coastal flooding. All right, Hampton Roads is enjoying this warmer stretch of weather, and we're going to take a look at how our Thursday is shaping up. Now, you can see, first of all, out on the water, southwest winds 5 to 10 knots, gusting to 15, waves running 1 to 2 feet. On the ocean there, the sea's 3 to 4 feet. With the south and southwest wind, I did notice there were some surfers there at the jetty putting on the wetsuits, braving those water temperatures in the upper 30s. Still very, very cold out there, but when the conditions are good for surfing, seems like those die-hard surfers will find a way, and a wetsuit does give them some protection from that cold. Take a look at our air temperatures over the past week, and so far today we've been up to 64 degrees. We're going to get back up into the mid-70s, so we are looking forward to that. Highs today, low to mid-70s. We're going to see mostly sunny skies through the afternoon. It's a beautiful day, and our temperatures, again, over the coming week will stay above average. Not to 80 officially, it doesn't look like, but temperatures will be in the mid-70s and maybe upper 70s. That's just kind of some model guidance. We're dry right now, and as we go through the day, we're going to see the temperatures climbing up low to mid-70s and then upper 70s inland. Again, a few inland spots over the next day or two, maybe close to 80. I think most of us will be in the upper 50s to low 60s tomorrow morning. We warm things up in the morning, but by early afternoon, here comes a backdoor cold front pushing in and shifting the winds around and dropping our coastal temperatures back down while inland areas stay warmer for your Friday. On Saturday, that front lifts back to the north, and that sets up warmer weather once again. We'll see another surge with temperatures well into the 70s on Saturday. By Sunday, there'll be a chance for some showers later in the day. Tree pollen is high today. Cedar, juniper, elm, and maple all producing a lot of pollen. As I mentioned, mid to upper 70s, skies mostly sunny, a great day to get out and enjoy. We'll be in the low to mid 70s for the peninsula, a little cooler at the middle peninsula. Gloucester 72, 64 at Matthews. Temperatures upper 50s to mid 60s on the eastern shore. Low 70s at the Outer Banks and mid to upper 70s inland. Overnight tonight, the low down around 59, skies mostly clear. And then tomorrow, temperatures back up to near 73. But remember, That temp will fall off during the afternoon if you live near the coast. It will be much cooler Friday with that backdoor front dropping in. Temps surge again on Saturday, back up to 74. We spring forward 1 hour. Daylight saving time begins. There'll be chances for showers later Sunday, maybe a few showers into Monday and Tuesday as well. Right now, we're leaving chances around 30%. That could go up or down a little bit. So stay tuned for forecast updates from our 13 News Now weather team. Certainly hope you've enjoyed watching the show. Want to remind you, you can always download the 13 News Now mobile app. It's absolutely free. Scan that QR code, download the app. You'll have access to our radars, our forecast, news and traffic updates as well. It's a great way to stay weather aware and stay in touch with us here at 13 News Now. Thank you so much for joining us on the Weather Desk. Let your friends know about us. We're here on 13 News Now Plus every weekday morning starting at 9. We also post these out on YouTube, so hopefully you'll continue to come back and find us. And I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Have a good one.